Hi class, in today's lesson our objective will be to identify 3D figures. So what I mean by the term 3D, we're talking about three-dimensional shapes. So what we've been working with before in the past have been two-dimensional shapes, where we've been looking at flat shapes like triangles and squares and rectangles and various other types of polygons. Now when we add depth and height to a two-dimensional shape, then that gives it an added dimension, which gives us the term 3 dimensions. So take a look at this example I have off to the side. This is an example of a cube, very familiar 3D figure that I think everybody's familiar with. And there's some key parts that you need to be able to identify with all 3D figures. And these are the terms face, edge, and vertex. So anytime that we're referring to a face, we're simply just referring to a flat surface. So a cube, for example, has a total of 6 faces. So a face on the top and bottom, a face on the front and in the back, and then a face on the left and on the right. And then edges are just simply the segments, all the line segments that make up the sides of the figure. And then anytime we have a vertex or vertices, we're just simply referring to a corner point or where two segments or edges are joining each other. So those are some key parts of a 3D figure that you need to be able to identify. Now let's talk about all the different types of 3D figures there are. So the main type that we're going to focus on today are prisms. So a prism is just a 3D figure with two parallel and congruent faces that are polygons. So remember, parallel means that they are opposite faces that are opposite of each other and they do not intersect. And congruent simply means that they are identical in size and shape. So you can name a prism by the shape of its bases. So I have an example of 5 different types of prisms down below, and I've highlighted the bases in red for you. So triangle bases are called triangular prisms. Then rectangles would be called rectangular prisms. Pentagons would be called pentagonal prisms. Hexagon would give us hexagonal prisms. And then octagons would give us octagonal prisms. So you could basically, as long as you know the name of the polygon that you're using, then you can pretty much name any type of prism based off of the polygon name for the base. So there are also other types of 3D figures that we'll be looking at in this chapter, and they are as follows. So we have cylinders. So cylinders, we can think of things like cans and coffee mugs that take on this type of shape where the congruent parallel bases are just circular shapes, and then we have this one big lateral surface that wraps around the perimeter of our cylinder. And then we also have cones. So we have a circular base, and then the lateral face meets up at a common point up here called the vertex. And then we have pyramids. Pyramids, we can actually classify them by the shape of their bases. So if this is a square base, then we would call this a square pyramid. If it was a rectangular base, then we would call it a rectangular pyramid, and so on and so forth. Then lastly, we have the 3D figure, a sphere. So we think of pretty much anything that's in the shape of a ball, like basketball, soccer ball, volleyball, what you name it, a globe. So a sphere is basically where we have a point in the center, and then going out in all directions in 3-dimensional space, they have the same distance going to the outer edge of this large circular surface. So I hope you found this lesson helpful. Let me know if you have any questions.